Thank you, Cecilia, for those wonderfully kind words. I'm not sure that I deserve them, but nevertheless, I understood it perfectly well, your Spanish. Thank you. Seated on the dais with me, Subsecretariat, Ministerio de Industria, Javier Ando, Vice President, Union Industrial Argentina, Federico Nicholson, our ambassador from India, aficionado of Latin America and South America, and one of the most well-known faces of your part of the world in my part of the world, Ambassador Vishwanathan. The leader of this delegation today from my country, my good friend Vikram Shroff, members of my delegation present here this morning, the wonderful, not master of ceremonies, but madame of ceremonies, Cecilia Lucia-Pugh, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen present before me today that represent the opportunity and the potential that both our countries share for the future. I'm indeed honored to be here in Argentina. It has been my long-felt desire to visit your country. I've had many friends from Argentina. Many of your polo players have visited my country. I have witnessed the tremendous capability on the sports and cultural field of your country. And therefore I am indeed extremely honored and happy to be present here today on this important occasion. I would also like to add that the warmth that I have perceived in the last 12 hours that I have been in your country is truly all-surpassing. To me, it's very reminiscent of the warmth that India represents to people from across the world. My colleague from FICCI talked about the fact that we have a 5,000-year-old civilization, a 5,000-year-old history, but a 5,000-year-old civilization and history of never conquering anyone outside, but accepting the world in our womb and in our labyrinth. In India, we have a saying called Atithi Devo Bhava, which means guest is God. And that is the experience that the last 12 hours has given me in Argentina by the people of your country. So thank you very much. I also see testaments in front of me. Javier presented a very, very lucid and wonderful presentation on the current trade, investment, and relationship between our two countries. But I also see in front of me other symbolic representations of that relationship, which necessarily cannot be represented by a PowerPoint slide, but to me are extremely important, and even more important as a foundation to build an economic relationship. Now, what are those representations? Paola made an excellent presentation about what her group, Los Grobo, is doing in India. And I must commend her for that. But what left a lasting impression on my mind was not only the content of her presentation, but the last slide, which showed her husband with the future of India. That to me is a representation of the potential that our two continents represent for the future. Seated before me, Cecilia, a charming Argentinian lady, but wearing an Indian outfit with a bindi. That to me again is a representation of the combination of our two countries, which if put together, fused together, can present to the world. We have a very old history, your country and mine. In fact, we don't have an old history, we share an old civilizational linkage. That's how old both our continents are, our countries are. Your country's name, Argentina, comes from the word argent, which means silver. My country, India, 2000 years ago, was called the Golden Bird, because India was the land of spices, the land of beautiful clothes, jewelry, and therefore represented a richness in every aspect. So today, standing before you, ladies and gentlemen, you have silver on one side and the golden bird on the other. Let's get both of these together to present a future for the world from our two continents. That today is the opportunity that we must talk about. Yes, the world is changing. Javier talked about the future that the world will face in the next 10-15 years. There was a different reality 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, when the southern hemisphere of the world was aspiring to become the northern hemisphere of the world. Our countries have always been aspirational, but we have always looked towards the north. Now that economic axis is changing. It is no longer a north-dominated axis towards the southern hemisphere, but south-south cooperation is gaining new ground. If you look at the IMF and World Bank projections for the next 15 to 20 years, and we talk about global growth in the world over the next 15 to 20 years, from the developed world, is going to come at close to about 1 to 2%. But from the developing world, which is what Argentina represents, which is what India represents, that growth is going to be powered at 7%, 8%, 9% rates of growth. Similarly, if you look at the export numbers, which become imports for the rest of the world, the developing world is going to continually export at only close to about 1 to 1.9% of GDP, but the developed world at close to 4 to 4.5% of GDP. And therefore the new opportunity, the cusp of new opportunity, the new horizon lies in this integration between South-South cooperation. And therefore now is the time that countries like India, countries like Argentina must cross the span of the 7 oceans, of the 7 seas, and must build lasting bonds of friendship, of partnership, and of economic relationships. And that is what brings me here today. That is what brings many Indian companies here today. And I very earnestly hope I will be meeting with the Minister of Industry after this conference. I will reiterate my request to her, but my request is to Javier as well. I have brought a delegation with me. You must in the very near future, and in the near future for a politician is very, very near, because you never know what happens over the next year. So in the near future, you must bring a delegation of Argentinian businessmen, investors to India, not only to look at investment or business opportunities, but along with B2B, along with G2G, we also need B2B, people-to-people interaction. I was speaking to Javier prior to coming on this podium, and I'm going to let out a little personal secret of his. He's been so busy in the Ministry of Industry, he hasn't taken a vacation for the last 3 years. So I've told him, this summer he must take a vacation with his family and come to India. Because when you understand people, when you understand a country, when you understand culture, it is on the basis of that understanding that you can build lasting bonds and lasting friendships. Those are the opportunities that abound us. We in India have been focused on Latin America. I first visited this continent, even though, as Cecilia said, I spent 7 years in the US. I did my undergrad in the US. I went to business school in the US. I worked as a banker in the US. That was my past life before I became a politician. But I never visited Latin America, and I feel sorry for that. I first visited Latin America last year, and I was amazed by what I experienced. I was amazed by what I saw. I was in Brazil, I was in Chile, I was in Peru. And when I went back from here last year, the first thing that I did within my government, along with the Prime Minister, on his instructions, we set up a group that is chartered with the one single task of putting together a strategy for trade, commerce, economic relations, and people-to-people relations with Latin America. I chair that group, and I guarantee you that I will push steps specifically for Argentina to ensure that we increase our relationship between Argentina and India in the coming years. We've also set up a focus Latin American and Caribbean country program wherein we incentivize our exporters to export to Latin America. And therefore, for every dollar of export to Latin America, the exporter gets an incentive from the government of India. And that is why you see the figures that you presented in terms of a 3.5 times rise in exports to your country, to this part of the world. It is a combination, it's a PPP model, a public-private participation model of government and the private sector together. Bodies like FICCI, bodies like CII, people like you have in the audience today, who have worked together to make this possible. I also think we need a deepening. We signed a PTA with Mercosur, but I think we need a deepening of that PTA. It must cover all aspects of trade. And therefore, we have put our wish list in front of your government, in front of the Mercosur group, comprising of Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and Brazil. And I hope that we can work on this in terms of the negotiations with alacrity. The one thing that the world today does not wait for is time. Time is opportunity, time is money. And therefore, we in government, we in the private sector must move quickly and grab opportunity when we see it. And therefore, I really hope, and I think you'll be involved partly in that, Javier. I will be speaking, as I said, with your minister as well. I hope we can take the negotiations forward quickly and conclude the deepening of the PTA with Mercosur. Your country is a country that I admire deeply. 42 million population, $371 billion GDP, 9,000 GDP per capita, 8.5% growth rate in very, very difficult times across the world. And a country that is embedded on democracy, institutionalized. Democracy-led growth is the way of the world, the way of the future, and that is what Argentina represents. Privatization program, which has moved with alacrity. Your capacity building in agriculture, the fact that you produce 100 million tons of food grains and soya meals. The fact that you are the largest exporter in the world today in soya meal and oil meal. Second largest exporter in corn. Third largest producer of soya meal in the world today. Fourth largest producer of wheat. This has come with a tremendous amount of investment, a tremendous amount of dedication and commitment of your successive governments and your private sector. And it is something that we in India look at you with great admiration and a deep amount of respect. Your capacity and your capability in the area of natural resources, whether it's silver, titanium, bronze, copper, gold, oil and gas, again is something which is a tremendous potential, not only for your part of the world, but I would even dare to say for the rest of the world, including India. India too has progressed very rapidly in the last 10 to 15 years. We are experiencing two dividends today. We are experiencing a democratic dividend. We have the largest democracy in the world with 1.2 billion people. 670 million people vote in the general election in India, which is violence-free. smooth transition of power. And along with the democracy dividend, we're also experiencing a demographic dividend. 70% of India is below the age of 35. Same age as Javier. 840 million people. 50% of India is below the age of 25. 600 million people. That is the potential of my country in terms of the youth dividend for the future. We've also believed in inclusive growth, because I think if you require a nation to emerge as an economic, I wouldn't like to use the word power, but as an economic resource, then it's important that every single individual in that country contributes to nation building. And therefore the concept of inclusive growth, where we take our growth down to the rural areas. The increasing importance of spend on healthcare, on education, skilling our workforce. An employment guarantee program that has seen no parallel in the world. We spend $9 billion per year guaranteeing 100 days of work for every unemployed person in rural India. An infrastructure program that has a target spend of $40 billion over the next 5 years. On urban infrastructure, on rural infrastructure, on airports, ports, roads, telecom, across the board. So the charter in India is tremendous, is large. And we have many success stories. Let me recount one or two. When I came back from university in the States in 1994 to my country, which was not long ago, 17 years ago, India did not have a single cell phone, not a single mobile phone in my country. In 17 years, we have gone from zero mobile phones to 752 million mobile phones as of December 2010. Mobile telephony penetration has gone from 5% in 2003, 8 years ago, to 67% today. That means 33% of the market is still remaining after 752 million mobile phones. That today is the potential that India represents. We need to skill our population. We've set up a national skill development mission which is looking at vocational training. And therefore the new opportunities will come from the new generation. Innovation. My colleague from FICCI talked about Hyundai having its base in Chennai. Not many of you know, but Hyundai produces its world launch models. The Hyundai i10, for example, was conceived, innovated, from the drawing board till production, pipeline, all based in India. So the base of innovation is also becoming India. We have the largest CD-ROM manufacturer in the world. Our companies are acquiring companies abroad. Our inward FDI was close to about $38 billion. We are now on a global acquisition spree. Our companies are on a global acquisition spree. Indian companies are moving from domestic companies to multinational to transnational companies, acquiring a global footprint. Inward FDI was $38 billion, but outward FDI last year was $10 billion, some of which you have seen on Javier's slides. Companies acquiring companies all across the world. Tata Steel acquired Chorus, which used to be British Steel. Tata Steel has acquired, Tata Motors has acquired Jaguar Land Rover. So our companies, from a managerial standpoint, the bandwidth is increasing. A global footprint is being acquired, and that is the opportunity that presents us today. So what do I look at in terms of areas of participation? We look at trade numbers, we look at trade figures. Yes, $2 billion is a good figure. 1.3 or $1.4 billion in terms of imports from Argentina, $600 million in terms of exports from India. But I think that is not even scratching the top of the barrel. Opportunities are tremendous, both on parallel flows, trade separately and investment separately. There are 4 or 5 areas that I'd like to concentrate on. Areas such as automobiles. India today is the world's supplier of automobiles. We produce between two-wheelers and four-wheelers in my country, 8 million vehicles per day, per year. And that is a ready market for Argentina. If you look at other products, whether it's IT, we have created 10,000 jobs in Argentina already. Whether it's companies like Aegis, TCS, Infosys, Wipro. And IT is a tremendous area where we can use Argentina not only as a domestic base, but also for launching operations into other parts of Latin America and North America. Oil and gas. India needs a tremendous amount of energy. Our government companies, ONGC Videsh, other companies can participate along with you in ventures in Argentina. Textiles, chemicals, pharmaceuticals. These are all areas where we can work together. India is the largest producer of generic drugs. This is also an issue that I would like to discuss with your government, because I believe that availability of low-cost drugs should be extremely important to Argentina. And therefore access of the pharmaceutical Indian market to Argentina is also extremely important. Collaboration has to be on the basis of complete freedom of heart and mind, and that is why India is represented by me on the stage today. I bring that message to you from my country to yours. So going forward, I would like to recall two extremely important persona. One a philosopher, the other an activist. One a visionary, the other an executioner. An executioner in terms of an individual that translates dreams into reality. The philosopher, the dreamer, the visionary is Aristotle. And he said, and I quote, "Partnership is essentially a friendship," unquote. And now we move from him to the person who translates those dreams into reality, the executioner. And the executioner, the person who translates those dreams into reality, is none other than Martin Luther King. And he once said, and I quote, that we may have all come on different boats, but we are all in the same ship today, unquote. So with those words, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me.